How's it cooking good looking? My name is Amalie and today we are making bifanas. A bifana is a Portuguese pork sandwich and it's probably one of the most famous sandwiches to eat here in Portugal. Today I'm showing you two versions, the boiled version and the fried version. So we are gonna start with the fried one, and the fried pork has to start in a marinade. So we are gonna make a marinade to begin with that is called vinho de alho, which basically means wine and garlic. We are not gonna do too much with this garlic. Just gonna cut it like this and leave everything in the marinade. You don't have to use this much garlic, but I love garlic, so I am using a lot. Gonna add in some bay leaves, white pepper, sweet paprika, some salt, and then the white wine. So the fried bifana is traditionally made in Lisbon region, and that's why I have selected a wine from that area. We're gonna use that, and we're gonna use maybe a cup and a half and a little more because it's wine. Gonna give this a little stir just to make sure that it's mixed like this. And now we are gonna add in our pork. Traditionally you would use pork cutlets, which is a nice cut. It has a bit of fat and you want to slice it pretty thinly. I'm making two bifanas, which would normally take 400 to 500 grams of meat. You put your meat inside your marinade and then you just massage this marinade in. I like setting it aside overnight. Some people say that an hour is enough, but as long as you prefer, the longer you put it, the more tender and the more flavor you will have in your meat. There. It stays. So now we are ready to do the boiled version. The boiled version of the bifana is traditionally seen in the north of Portugal. And when you make a dish from the north, you need beer and you need simmer food. Because in the north of Portugal, they like food that is cooked, slow cooked, simmering. Is it called soul food? We need an onion. This onion is not super important that you chop it up like finely or anything, because this is gonna simmer for a long time along with our meat and some other good stuff. And the exact same thing goes for the garlic here. Just gonna chop it a little roughly, just give it some nice chunks, you know. We want it to be chunky and big because we're gonna blend all this into a sauce. Now we are ready to create the sauce. We are gonna use a big pot for our sauce. I'm gonna turn the heat on medium heat, and now we are gonna add a lot of olive oil. You can actually use a vegetable oil if you prefer that instead, with a much higher smoking point. I just like olive oil. I think it's very Portuguese, and you know, it tastes amazing. The oil is warming up, so we are gonna add in the onions. What we really wanna do now is to break down the texture of our onion, meaning that we want the onion to be soft and a little bit see-through. This is ghee, and ghee is amazing for cooking. So we are gonna add a big tablespoon of ghee into the pot. And look how the onion is all soft and nice. And now for my tomato puree. So the tomato puree and this little onion mix is gonna simmer for some time with my bay leaves in, some paprika and some nice piri. You can add piri after what you like. If you want a lot of heat, you put a lot in. If you don't want too much heat, you don't. I like heat, so I'm also gonna put a jalapeno hot sauce in that I like a lot. It has a bit of a acidy and tangy flavor, which I really like in the sauce here. In this recipe, I like to add a little bit of cinnamon. I think cinnamon is such a nice spice, and it brings out some sweetness to any dish, which I very much like. White pepper is required, and finally some salt. This has been simmering for a couple of minutes, and now we're gonna bring out the Superbug Portuguese beer. I'm actually gonna use the entire liter of beer here. Once it's boiling, we're ready to add in our pork. This is pork cutlets, and these has been sliced up as finely as I possibly could. A really good idea when you want to slice up your pork is that you put the cutlet and then you slowly slice it horizontal so you can make it as thin as possible. If you're not good with a knife to slice up stuff thinly, you can actually freeze it, and once it's still kind of frozen in the process of defrosting, you can actually slice it much thinner because it's a little bit more firm. Sauce is boiling, so we are going to add in our pork. I added in slice after slice because I really want it to cook evenly. And now it's actually going to stand here and simmer for about 30 minutes. I'm going to put a lid on. It's only going to cover like half of the pot, because then not too much moisture leaving the pot, but it's still going to reduce. It's been 30 minutes and I just realized that I made a huge mistake. Big mistake. The sauce were supposed to be blended before I applied my pork meat. We are gonna save it. You can save it, but don't do this. Blend it before you put in the pork. I'm sorry. Now we're gonna take away the pork meat, and then I'm gonna remove my bay leaves and blend the sauce. Now the sauce looks like it's supposed to look like before you put in the pork. It's nice, it's creamy, and it's saucy. Almost like a francesinha sauce, you know? I'm gonna dump in the meat here again. And I'm just gonna let it simmer for 5 minutes. This is what it's supposed to look like. The boiled edition is done. Now we need to put it in the bread. But before we do that, I'm gonna make the fried one so we can compare and see which one do I prefer. We are gonna bring the pan up to a lot of heat, and I'm gonna add some olive oil in it. And it's actually gonna be quite a lot of olive oil. I know that this is gonna seem like it's too much olive oil, but the thing is we wanna create a little sauce in this pan. To give a nice and creamy texture to this sauce, I'm gonna add in some ghee. You can use butter if you want, but I like ghee. Ghee has more fat, it has a higher smoking point, and it leaves it with a very nice texture. Let's see if it's sizzling. I'm gonna save the marinade in the bowl, because once these puppies has cooked, I am gonna add in some of the marinade for the sauce. So now that the pork has fried and it's cooked how I want it, which is just done because it's pork, I am ready to make the sauce for the pork. I'm gonna turn down the heat to low heat, and then I am ready to add in my mustard. The Lisbon way when you wanna have a bifana is to have the yellow sweet mustard. I like to use 50-50 because I really like the spicy mustard. There are a lot of different ways of mustering up your bifana. I like to do it in the sauce, but a lot of people would actually don't put anything in the sauce. They would just apply it on the bread roll that we are gonna use for the bifana. But for this edition, my edition, we are gonna make it in the sauce. I am gonna add in a bit of the marinade here, because this is where we have all our garlic. And if you're wondering why I turned down the heat before I did this, it's because if you don't turn down the heat, it's gonna splash all over the place, and it's not pleasant to get boiling hot ghee in your face. This is gonna be incorporated in our little sauce here. I'm gonna give it a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper, because I like black pepper. If you want, you can actually add in some piri here if you want it to be spicy, but traditionally you would probably just put the piri on your finished bifana. It's perfect. I love it. Let's go and make our 2 bifanas. Just gonna dump these 2 in, just so they can maybe pick up a little bit more of the sauce now that we have it right. So here we have the biggest rivalry in Portugal, maybe. We have Porto versus Lisbon. And it's actually kind of funny to do it this way, because this is also a dish that you normally get when you go to football matches. You would go to the stadium and you would get a very sad version of a bifana on the stadium.
Is it good?
It could be.
food at stadiums are terrible.
But it's also something you eat here when you go out for drinking all night and then on your way home, instead of going to McDonald's. The bread that we use for our bifanas is the Portuguese Papo Seco. It's basically a bread roll. It's delicious. You can get it everywhere in the supermarket, or you can make it yourself if you want to bake some bread. You only slice this up until a little over half, because you want it to be like a hot dog bread, where it's like not completely open. We will start with our Lisbon edition, and here we need to apply some of the sauce. And this is why I say, if you're not making the sauce and you're just frying this on the pan, you can just add like your mustard here, your yellow mustard. I'm gonna apply on both sides because it's delicious. And in goes our delicious marinated pork. And there you have it, the Lisbon Bifana. Now, the Porto edition. Traditionally, this meat would be a little thinner than mine is. We're gonna add a couple of slices. And here is your Porto boiled Bifana. Bifanas can be served completely by itself, but sometimes when you're on a little bit more fancy place, you get them with these skinny batata fritas. This is something you use a lot in Portuguese cuisine, and they're perfect with your Bifana. I was actually told by a guy from Porto that the way they do it in Porto is that they dip the whole Bifana in the tomato sauce here, and then they eat it. So of course that's what I'm gonna do. It's very messy, it's almost like francesinha. This is so delicious. Don't wear lipstick when you order a dish like this, but oh my god, it is so good with this sauce on. We started out pretty good with the Porto. Now we're going to Lisbon. Oh, I did not expect this to be so good. I like this one too. I don't know, you guys should try it yourself and see which one you like. They're easy to make. It's called fast food of Portugal. I would never call it fast food because it takes forever to make, but it's totally worth it. So good. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If it made you hungry, please like it. If it made you drool, subscribe to my channel and leave a comment and tell me if you have tried these two sandwiches, which one do you prefer? See you in the next one. Bye.